was fun and very energetic. And speaking of energy, we have very passionate speakers who are about to join us. You all know who they are. The next topic we are discussing has been in the news for months. It's been heard by the Supreme Court. Bulldozer Justice. Are we doing jugaad or real justice? The Supreme Court has had the last word, but will the politicians have the last word beyond that? Having this conversation is Tehseen Poonawala. You all know who he is, along with the Sudhanshu Mittal of the BJP. And we have a special treat because Mr. S.N. Srivastav, the former Delhi Police Commissioner, is with us to have a conversation from a police person's perspective on how to serve justice in this country. The moderator will be our senior news editor, Devika Chopra. Devika, over to you.
We have to maintain the momentum of the last session.
Not in the acrimony.
Yes, absolutely.
I think a fish market is not what we're looking at.
No, absolutely. But very, very pertinent topic once again, bulldozer justice. You know, it's the topic of the day. The Supreme Court has recently given its own views and clarifications on bulldozer justice. But Mr. Srivastav, I'd like to begin with you, sir. 4.5 crore pending cases before our courts today, right? 80,000 of those, over 80,000 in fact, cases pending before the Supreme Court as of January 2024 reports. In a country where we have these many cases pending today, what do we even tell the victims or their families who are clearly frustrated somewhere with the judicial system, with the justice system? Because even in a case like Nirbhaya, and I've worked very personally and closely on that case from a journalist's point of view, even in that case, it took 10 years for the criminals to actually finally face justice. So what does one then say to the victims or their families who are clearly frustrated today?
From both sides, from the victim perspective and also from the governance also, from the criminal justice system also. I mean, the amount of delay in finalizing the cases, that is troubling both sides. The victims have to wait for a very long time. I mean, 10 years in Nirbhaya case, that was a special case, and it could end up in 10 years. But there are many other cases where it takes much more time, 15, 20 years, for the cases to be finalized. And at the same time, from the, I would say, from the governance perspective, they also would like, from, let's say, as a police person, I would also like that the cases which are charge-sheeted be finalized, the trial begins quickly, and the judgment and appeal, etc., they all are done quickly so that the person is punished. And that will have effect on the society, the lawlessness in the society, that will have a good effect.
But at the same time, Mr. Srivastav, bulldozer justice as a concept has become a little popular amongst people as well, simply because they feel that at least criminals today are then afraid of losing something, of having a very immediate consequence to their actions, which otherwise one can say one can go to court, then there'll be lower court, high court, Supreme Court, judicial petitions, review petitions, you know, and the saga just goes on. So for years, you could just be roaming free as well, and there will be no consequence. What is your take on that? The fact that somewhere society finds this whole concept to be a little appealing.
Yes, I was speaking to, once I was told that I'll be dealing with this topic. So somebody suggested to me that why Amitabh Bachchan, in those days, angry young man, why was his film liked apart from other reasons? One reason was that he could deliver justice immediately. But in the case of bulldozer justice, while you are able to deliver justice quickly, at the same time, the justice you should be able to, you know, do it correctly. Because many a times, if you don't follow the process of law, then what happens is that you may have a tendency of making a mistake. And if the person whose house has been demolished, if he goes to the court and the court gives a ruling in his favor, then there's a loss of face for the government. So what I feel is that you must do it quickly, but at the same time follow the process of law.
Okay, so Danshu, to bring you into the conversation here, I want to understand from you, Mr. Srivastava, we were just discussing pendency of cases as well. Isn't it then ironical that in fact the government is today the biggest litigant? 50% of the pending cases are government cases before the courts.
See, let's look at justice in the context of criminal justice. I think that's where this entire debate comes from. Civil jurisprudence can be debated later. Now, if you look at any civilized society, any developed country, what is paramount there? What is paramount is rule of law. The fear of rule of law. Nobody dares to violate the rule of law because they know that there are very serious consequences. You can't escape that. And the consequences are because the majesty of law enables that whosoever has violated the law gets punished. So punishment is fundamental to rule of law. If the punishment doesn't take place, then the majesty of law will get demolished,
Yes.
and the rule of law shall not prevail. That is the problem in this country. Can anybody sitting here vouch for the fact that there is really rule of law? We all look for alternate remedies. We all look at, yaar iske paas chalo, wo karwa dega. Nobody believes that the due process will get you justice. That's the irony of this country. And I think while Supreme Court has made its observation, it should seriously dwell on the fact as to how to ensure rule of law. When we grew up, what
Yes.
did we hear? Justice delayed is justice denied. If 24 years is not delay, if 10 years of Nirbhaya is not delay, if people get exonerated after 30 years, then what else is delay? I think while the wisdom of the judiciary manifests itself on every issue and any issue, the core fundamental issue of delivery of justice must get addressed.
But yes,
one-
but on bulldozer justice, I'd like to understand from you. Of course, justice delayed is justice denied. But is it then fair for the other people living in that particular property to suffer the consequences of one person's actions? For example, there's a man or a woman in the house who's committed the crime, but for the rest of the people who may be living in that house, for them to also lose it.
See, I think there are two tendencies. One is we are all status quoists. We love status quo. Anything which breaks the status quo is looked at lot of skepticism. Second, we love to wallow on victimhood. You know, the criminal is also a victim. I mean, this dichotomy is something which I don't understand. Let me come down to this very issue of bulldozer. The laws, everybody's here, they'll bear me out. The laws in every state, in every municipality relating to demolitions are different. It's unfortunate that a dictate has been issued by the Supreme Court. You know, public property. If there is encroachment of public property, it has to be dealt differently. If there is an attempt to encroach public property, it has to be dealt differently. If there is illegal construction, it has to be dealt differently.
Yes.
Now, if a fundamental law has been violated by any officer, I am a firm believer of the rule of law. If a fundamental law has been violated by an officer, there are judicial remedies. But sweeping actions like this is illegal, how can it be illegal? It is case to case.
Okay.
It has to be dealt with case to case rather than in a sweeping context of a phenomenon.
Okay, Tehseen wants to make a point.
So thank you for having me here. Mr. Srivastava, thank you for your services to our nation and to the city. It's very tough to be a police officer in our nation because you always get rogered from all sides. But let me come to the simple things Sudhanshu Bhai said. He said, once, Sudhanshuji, it wasn't an observation, it was a judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court. A very well-written judgment, a very thought-about judgment. A 95-page judgment, which is a short judgment in today's context of the Supreme Court. each paragraph going into each detail that Sudhanshuji raised, and very well articulated. So for those of you who haven't read the Bulldozer judgment, please read it. It is each para-wise, and it's very, very well articulated. There are a couple of points Sudhanshuji raised. He says, how can the Supreme Court come up with one diktat? No, it is the job of the Supreme Court to save constitutional rights. Sudhanshuji, may I please? To save constitutional rights. The rule of law, like Sudhanshuji rightly said, is fundamental. What does the rule of law say? The rule of law says you are innocent until proven guilty. Can a police officer, with respect to you, sir, under pressure from a politician like me or Sudhanshuji, come and say, she is guilty, he is guilty, he is guilty, and demolish somebody's entire lifetime earnings? A house is an asset. From the richest man in the country to the poorest man, there's two dreams every Indian has. One is to have a house, one is to get their kids married. Can police officers, along with municipal authorities, just come and bulldoze it because the government wants to fix somebody? Now, should somebody be punished? Yes. Where should they be punished? In a court of law. Are we going to give that power to police officers, to municipal authorities, to Zilla Parishad Adhikaris, to fix people without the due process of the law? At no point does that 95-page judgment, say that you cannot demolish public encroachment. It doesn't say that. What it sets in motion is a process across the great nation of ours of how a demolition will be done. So, for example, what it says is, listen, you should get a notice. So suppose, sir, you get a notice about your house, or Dr. Bagai gets a notice about his house.
Yes.
Dr. Bagai then has the right to go to the relevant authorities, A, to say, I will take care of that particular structure, or give a paper why it's not. Now, the right to be heard is a fundamental right. Second, you can't come suddenly and bulldoze and put a backdated notice. That notice has to have an electronic trail with the district magistrate. The district magistrate then, with a timestamp, sends the relevant authority that within a month such and such demolition will happen. How is that against the rule of law? Third,
Okay.
if somebody decides that they want to move out of this construction, they should be given another 15 days to move out. Say, okay, they want to leave it. It is public encroachment. Let us move out. Ultimately, do you want to see people on the streets? Women, children, old people, to quote what the Supreme Court judgment, it breaks our heart. That is not what the framers of our constitution wanted. If there is lawlessness in our country, if the judicial reforms have not taken place, those who are running the country for the past 60 years or for the past 10 years, let's ask them questions. You can't give this arbitrary power to police officers, municipal authorities, or Zilla Parishad Adhikaris, or politicians like Sudhanshuji, or political analysts like me. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sudhanshu Mitra wants to respond, then I'll get Mr. Ehsan Srivastava as well.
Again, Tehseen, with due respect, I have great fondness for you, and I like your articulations always. But you're mixing a lot of things. You know, when we talk about due process of law, who's the lawmaker? Is the Supreme Court a lawmaker, or the lawmakers are the lawmaker? Every municipality is governed by a law.
Yes.
Now, Supreme Court, if thinks that this law is wrong, let it come down and say it is ultra vires, the Constitution.
Yeah.
You cannot give one dictate and say this will be the law of the day today, because there exists a law. What is happening is there is a growing tendency of pontification and creation of laws. You can't. I'm a purist when it comes to governance. I'm not. I believe that there is separation of power. So what is the power of the lawmakers is the power of the lawmakers. What is the power of the interpreters of law is the powers of the interpreter of law. And what has to be executed as per the law is the power of the executive to do so. Now, let's respect those boundaries. I'll just finish. What you are saying is Supreme Court has now laid the law that this is how demolition can take place. I'm sorry, I disagree with it completely. Because what has been given in the Constitution as areas of lawmaking have to be respected. Sure. And we are in Delhi. There is a law, Municipal of Delhi Act.
Yes.
The Act provides a certain process.
Yes.
Now that process cannot be overruled unless it is stuck down.
But
What is
yes,
happening?
before I
Just one line.
Yes.
One last this thing is, you are again assuming that there is a violation of law. The fundamental assumption is that whenever demolition has taken place, it is against the law. I mean, I am saying,
May I
if
just
it is,
respond to it,
I'm
please?
just
Both those
finishing.
points, yeah.
If this is against the law, let somebody go with the facts of the case, and let it be decided on the facts of the case.
But Mr. Mittal, by then they've lost their house, no?
Uske baad there are compensations to it also, na?
But
Let me tell you one thing. The executive has ensured a certain execution as they believe it is the due process of law.
yes,
Right? Now, if they have erred in that, I'm not a votary of that. If they have erred, let them be punished. But the assumption that every action which has been taken is a flawed action, this is fallacious.
May I
no,
just
but we
reply
are
to that
also
too
assuming
quickly?
here that all of these cases where bulldozer justice, so-called bulldozer justice has taken place, are cases of public encroachment. That is not true.
No,
May I just respond to it,
Yes,
please?
Tesla, I'll bring, yes,
Can I just take one?
yes,
I have a
30
very
seconds.
classic case in this. You know, what normally happens, he's the one who's had the policing experience. But my limited understanding is, the moment there is criminality notice, then the records are checked.
Yes,
And when it is discovered that these were illegal constructions and they have always been booked earlier, but no action has been taken because the executive was bribed or whatever, that is when you pick it up and execute.
Okay. Okay.
So you will understand that it is not a fresh action which gets initiated once a criminality has taken place. The action was pending, but it never took place. But it got accentuated because a criminality was discovered. That's
Okay,
it.
okay, all right. Tehseen, before,
There are-
yes.
there
30
are
seconds, Mr.
there are
Srivastava
two-
has been waiting.
No,
yes.
no, I just want to rebut two very quick points. I'll just take a minute, less than a minute. One, Sudhanshuji asked, is it the job of the Supreme Court to lay down the law? No, it's not. However, in this particular case, like the framers of our Constitution, and you will give us the Constitution later on, please read Article 142. Article 142, but my leader carries it also, and so do I. But coming to the larger point, Article 142, especially the framers of our Constitution mandated. Now, if you read the constitutional debates, and it is amazing, and I'm so grateful that in this particular case, the Supreme Court used Article 142. It uses it rarely.
Please read it.
It uses it rarely.
It is not applicable in this
to,
case.
to lay down the law. So it is excellent.
It
But
is
the
only
second-
when
but
a law
Sudhanshuji,
does not
Sudhanshuji.
exist. Just-
No,
don't-
Sudhanshuji, I know. So the Article 142. Now when you say that, but the assumption that you went into the Supreme Court that all action was illegal, that was not the assumption that went in. The assumption, there were two separate issues. Individual cases, like Sudhanshuji said, went to the respective district courts. So the demolitions in Rajasthan, the demolition in Madhya Pradesh, the demolitions in Uttar Pradesh, etc., went to the respective district courts. What the Supreme Court did is set down a set of guidelines that made the process transparent across the length and breadth of the country. That is it. If the house is demolished, let's take Sudhanshuji's argument, if the house is illegal, of a criminal who has bribed it, 15 days doesn't matter because he's already bribed and bought time. But 15 days to an innocent man, as you rightly put it, is their lifetime. Also, you cannot punish an entire family because somebody's house is illegal. And as I end my case, before we hand it over to Srivastava, in one of the cases in Rajasthan, where the BJP government demolished a house, the person staying there was a tenant. The landlord was somebody else. Right. And third person, and the house was on the landlord's mother's sister's name. Got demolished.
Okay. All right. Mr. Srivastava, make your points, but I'd also like to understand, we obviously cannot also be doing this justice by Jugaad system for too long, as the Supreme Court has also now opined. But do you think that it needs to come to an absolute halt, this concept of bulldozer justice, or should the politicians really look at then finding some other way? Because ultimately the conclusion of everyone on this panel is the same, that there is no fear of the law that is left in our society today.
See, I'm suggesting a bulldozer justice in a modified manner. The whole concept of bulldozer justice started with Vikas Dubey, if I am right, Vikas Dubey thing. Now, for a moment, I also, when this happened, I also was very happy that a criminal like Vikas Dubey, his house has been demolished, he has encroached upon the government land, and his house has been demolished. Before I answer your question, I'd like to also say, see, what the Supreme Court has not laid down any law.
Yes.
It has reiterated the law. The law is, for example, in Delhi, it's Delhi Municipal Corporation, the section is 343. It says that the power is given to the municipal corporation. Likewise, in UP, it is UP Urban Planning and Development, act. Under that act, the power is with the vice chairman. That's also a municipal act. So basically, the demolition, etc., is the municipal act. There is no involvement of judiciary in this. What the Supreme Court has said that we follow this process. So, and I would recommend that the due process of law is followed. The next thing which I am saying is, we don't have to do it in a reactionary manner, like reacting to a particular something. Vikas Dubey comes or somebody else, and then you demolish the house. What happens on a daily basis? You see unauthorized encroachment.
Yes.
Lots of things are happening. So the job of the municipal authority is to identify those areas which have been encroached, the government land has been encroached, or where the urban laws are not being followed, and then you identify those things and start demolishing. So that is also, you are using bulldozer there also.
Yes.
So you are administering a bulldozer justice with a different way.
Okay.
So I certainly, if somebody has encroached on somebody else's land or not followed the law, why should he have an exception? A normal citizen who is law-abiding. So likewise, the other people who have exceeded the law, they need to be dealt with in a different way through bulldozer justice.
But Mr. Srivastava, at the same time, now, isn't it ironical that once again, the Supreme Court, as you've said, they've reiterated the law, right? That you have to give a 15-day notice period. Tehseen also elaborated on it. 15-day notice period, then you have time to respond, and there's another 15-day notice period as far as...
And a timestamp.
Yes, a timestamp. But isn't it somewhere a little ironical, because the largest number of pending cases before our courts today are land and property disputes? Will this not then come under the same category? Are we in a position today?
While we are saying that the process of law should be followed, I think everybody has to follow the process of law and at least administering the justice.
Yes.
So if any judiciary, judiciary of highest level or district courts, they also have to administer the justice as quickly as possible. And not, there's a timeline for, let's say, for the police to investigate. I mean, if a person is arrested within 60 days and 90 days, and if the charge sheet is not filed within 60 and 90 days, depending upon the severity of the case, the accused gets a bail.
Yes.
So there is a stipulation for the police. Likewise, there should be a stipulation for the judiciary. I am not the person to suggest what should be done. It's the lawmakers who has to, do something like that. But definitely, I am in favor of that there should be a certain time frame within which you might expand the judiciary.
Okay.
You might have more courts. And give a time, there shouldn't be any adjournments.
Absolutely.
All those
100%.
things.
But, sir, I'll bring you in just a moment. Tehseen, how does that work? Because we've tried fast-track courts as far as rape cases are also concerned. What is the status of that? We've not managed to crack the code there.
So now you're asking me a futuristic vision. So when I'm in government, there are two things I will do. Point number one, bring courts on blockchain. As a result of which justice is delivered swiftly, hearings are done quickly. Take the courts to the people. So what you will require is a constitutional amendment to increase the age of judges' retirement ages, as a result of which judges in mobile courts, on which you said majority of the cases are property disputes, can actually go to the area, say, because wo ek ilake mein hote, so you have courts set up in that area, you have the justice. Secondly, the second thing I would do is, the Supreme Court in India remains an apex court for constitutional matters only.
Yes.
And you have 5 Supreme Courts set up in the rest of the country: North India, South India, East India, West India, and Central India, which will be the final arbitrator on ways of constitution, where the apex court in Delhi only hears matters of constitution. Please imagine, and I agree with what Sir says, today your lower courts, and I'm just going slightly away, and on the issue of criminality, your lower courts are not giving bail. Your Supreme Court is sitting on bail matters. The court cases pending hi rahegi na. Your courts are not giving bail. So you will have to make these reforms.
Okay.
These require and technology will have to be taken to the people. With AI, with judges, with quantum coming in, with blockchains, this will be swiftened up magnificently. Increase the age of judges, take the judges and the courts to the people. Take mobile courts to the people, especially in property. I'm not talking criminal, civil disputes. Take the courts, then solve the thing. Do your divorces, which are divorces together, which both parties are consenting to. Do it online. Why do you need to come all the way to the court?
Okay, Mr. Mittal's been wanting to read out the...
I would not like to digress from the topic we are discussing. I had earlier said the Supreme Court should be debating quick dispensation of justice. 142 does not talk what Tehseen you talking. Here's 142 for you. I don't want to embarrass you in this.
No, you're not. Article 142 is
142,
through which
please,
this judgment
please,
is done,
please,
sir.
please read it.
Sir, through which the judgment
Please read it now.
142 is
140
exactly.
does not, no.
So you challenge the judgment before
I'm
a
not
higher
challenging,
bench?
I'm just telling
No,
you
you
that
challenge-
you are
it is
wrong.
done-
Chhodo.
That's
I
another,
did not debate with you. I
that's
did not
another
debate
case
you.
added to the
Exactly.
4.5
I did not
crore
debate
pending
with you.
already.
Sure.
No,
But
I
this
did
is
not
done under
interrupt you. So,
Yes.
so 142 does not give powers for laying down law. And as Mr. Srivastava himself said, every municipality has a different set of law. And in which case notice will be given, how it will be given, what is the process, what is the adjudicating authority, it's all laid down. By one stroke, all that has been nullified to say this will now be the process. No, this is wrong. Unless you are striking down the provisions of those acts which are there in force. You can't have two acts in force. You can't have a municipal act which has all these provisions enforced while it has got superseded.
Okay,
Arey, yaar,
okay,
ye kya hai?
Tehseen wants
Achha,
to
but I'll
respond.
just
Yes.
last say, look, what is the fundamental debate? Debate is people want justice.
Yes. Yes.
And when criminals go unpunished for years and years and years, then this is the justice people appreciate and applaud. But which is not the right way. Due process should never be violated. But the assumption that the due process has been violated, so let us give another this thing and let us create victimhood out of it, that's wrong. That's populist. Let's not become populist. A case has to be decided on each individual facts of the case and not in its generality and say,
Okay.
this is bulldozer justice. Arey yaar,
Okay.
ye kya hai?
Okay. Tehseen wants to come in there.
Sudhanshuji, you never embarrass me, only get me good coffees, but Article 142 is under which the Honorable Supreme Court took this particular judgment. Article 142 has been debated. You have a lot of lawyers here. For sometimes the Supreme Court stretching its use, as it did in the cricket board case, which I
Yes.
thought was completely misuse of Article 142. A bunch of retired bureaucrats and some ex-cricketers profited. But this was what the framers of our Constitution had hoped
never
for.
empowered
But
them.
may I. There are not, the Supreme Court has again not come up with a new set of laws. What the Supreme Court has said is fundamental rights to life, housing, the fundamental right to appeal, the fundamental right that you're innocent until proven guilty, the fundamental right that others are not punished for a criminal action if of somebody else, and the fundamental right for the accused to defend himself or herself in a court of law, not before authorities, is what is upheld. That is the basic structure of our Constitution, and Sudhanshuji, that is very basic.
That does not get violated by what has been done.
It does.
If a house
Okay.
is demolished because it was illegal and it was encroached on public land, there's no fundamental, and allow me.
Sure, sir.
And the process that there is an appeal. There is an appeal, do it.
In UP,
I mean,
the notice was predated,
now individual cases,
Therefore, I'm saying
See,
the law
there is-
has to be
But
has to be
Mr.
applied
Mittal, there's a
across the-
reason why the Supreme Court then also came in,
Supreme Court
right?
has given a generality, has gone into generality. I'm saying Supreme Court has to say each case has to be looked at differently.
It does.
In terms
It
of
is
its-
still.
That's it.
It still
Supreme
is.
Court cannot say this is what the process would be.
The process is
because
what the
the
Supreme
process
Court
is
laid
laid down.
It's
The
laid down by
process
the
is
Supreme
laid down already in the acts.
Okay.
Those
Which
acts have been upheld.
No.
Those processes have been upheld.
Okay, but-
So
reiterated.
if it says 7 days and Supreme Court says 15 days, अरे ये क्या है भाई? अगर
There
एक
is-
एक्ट के अंदर 7 दिन का प्रोविजन है कि 7 दिन के अंदर नोटिस आपको देगा, उसके बाद आपके पास 3 दिन का, that's an act.
In criminality, you're not changing the act.
This is not criminality. We are talking about demolition. No,
Demolishing somebody's house and livelihood
criminality
and
is
putting
not that.
women and kids
No.
on the street is
That
criminality.
is, no,
done
it's
by
not
a criminal
criminality.
government.
No, it does not matter. What is
The
matters
government is
if-
criminal when you take
if
away people's
somebody
livelihood.
has made an
Okay.
illegal construction.
And when
how
the
it has to
government
be
is
demolished?
illegally breaking
Okay,
people's
okay.
houses because it
Government
failed
will be
to
punished. punish.
To be
If
to
an
uphold them.
officer, if
Who's
an
been-
officer
who's been
does,
punished?
if the courts don't punish, it's their problem, yeah. If a government
So
is
the
acting
courts-
illegally, no, please don't confuse two things.
I'm not
If a
confusing.
government
The
is acting illegally,
acting on the officers acting on the orders of the
it
executive.
may be, but if
Illegally.
it is illegal, then let the court punish
Constitution
them.
has to be upheld under
The
all
court-
circumstances,
the court
sir.
will
Okay,
punish, nah.
all
Let
right.
the court punish them.
Okay,
But you don't
okay, I want to,
recognize
okay, I want
But it
to,
can
okay,
punish them
I
on the
want to,
basis
okay,
of the certain laws being broken.
okay.
There is no law which has been broken because there is law already there in existence.
Predating
Okay,
notices.
I'm assuming this
breaking
will be a
somebody else's
matter
house,
before
is
the
law
courts.
being broken?
This will be a matter before the courts very soon once again. But Mr. Srivastav, I want to understand from you, sir. One last question. Is the concept of a bulldozer justice then somewhere a reflection on the pace of India's judicial system? And should it be taken as a wake-up call to the judiciary itself? Because it's come in at a point where, as Mr. Mittal is pointing out, they've given out clarification on what the law states and what the procedure should be. But is it a reflection on their own pace?
Yes and no. No, because the power is with the municipal authorities. So let the municipal authorities, decide the matter. But if any matter goes to the judiciary, they should decide it quickly and not delay or not sit on it. You see, the best course of action, according to me, you didn't ask me this question, but then I'm just answering. The best course of action is that instead of acting in as a reaction,
Okay.
what the government must do is identify the problems and try to deal with those problems at that time itself. Vikas Dubey, suddenly overnight, he didn't become a criminal. He was criminal there for a long time. So some action should have been taken against him before. And if that action had been taken, I think he wouldn't have become such a criminal. So, and this is the thing that we have always been following, that if you have a control over the illegal activities, unauthorized activities, and deal with that at the first point of time, then I don't think issues will become so big.
Okay. Just last 30 seconds, sir. We have to wrap up. Yes.
So we all heard the cry, Tariq pe Tariq pe Tariq pe Tariq. We thought at some point this will change. I'm sure it's the experience of all of you here that it has become worst. The tariqs have become frequent and longer. That's now how a civilized society can last.
Okay. Tehseen, last word to you.
Therefore, the solution to this is those who have been governing for 11 years and said that this will change have to be removed, and new people have to come in who can bring in better reforms so that Tariq pe Tariq stops.
Okay. All right.
Without an iota of idea as to how it will change.
I just gave an idea.
You
I
have
just
given
gave
an
lots of
idea
ideas.
which is silly.
I gave lots of ideas.
Increasing
You're
the
only one
ages,
who didn't give it.
increasing the age of judges. How ridiculous. How
said take the
ridiculous.
judgment
Let
to
me
the
tell
House.
you,
I didn't
increasing
take it
the
to the
number of judges, I
Give
can
me
agree.
another idea.
I can agree that and let me explain to you what is happening, which you probably don't know. Increasing the number of judges, yes. Increasing the age of judges, ridiculous.
Till you don't fill in new
Second, I'll
judges.
tell you, use technology. Because now what has happened is, now you are allowed to take evidence on
Yes.
using electronic media.
But to be
So
fair,
you
he
are-
did raise that point.
I'm giving you all what happened.
To be fair.
Blockchain, AI,
Absolutely.
is exact use of technology.
let me
The
allow-
BJP
let me allow-
will paraphrase
let me
what I
allow-
say
let me
and
allow-
will say, but oh, this is you. All right.
Let me allow.
Let the BJP.
Let me allow.
Okay,
It is using exactly what I
Let
say.
me allow. Sir, lastly, you should understand that the judicial process is governed by the Supreme Court itself, and no executive authority has any say on that matter. What will be acceptable as evidence and the methodology of evidence is what is laid down by the Supreme Court and not by the Government of India. So please,
And with technology coming in, Supreme Court needs to adapt to
while
it.
you want to, I didn't want to make a political case
No,
here
but
because
with
it's a case of
technology
the
coming in,
citizens.
with
It is a case
AI
of the
coming in,
I did
you
not
need
want
to
to get
adapt
into
to it.
I didn't want to
If
get into
anyone's
UPA
idea
versus
that
Okay,
Supreme Court has not
unfortunately,
yet
unfortunately,
adapted,
Unfortunately, we have to land up with that.
Yes, I have run out of time, but I promise you we will come back on this debate once again.
bulldoze this issue.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Much like the topic, yes, but hopefully some fruitful conversation has come out of this. Thank you so much once again to all of our panelists. May I invite...
At this point of time, request Tehseen Poonawala, Sudhanshu Mittal, and Mr. S. N. Srinivastava to stay back on the stage. I would like to invite Dr. Aishwarya Sharma to come onto the stage and present this token of appreciation for all our guests. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We are presenting all our guests with a memento, the picture of the first Constituent Assembly members, as well as the copy of the Constitution of our country, as we celebrate the 75th year of the adoption of the Constitution. Thank you very much. And
We both are on the same side.
yes. Absolutely. I thank all of you for joining us for this discussion. Moving on, let's shift our focus to